Well, good afternoon, and as you can tell, we're not in the van.
So much space.
We just thought we'd give a very brief update just before Christmas, obviously based upon our last video. Now actually, even though that video was only posted a week ago, we've actually been back here in Portrush.
6 weeks, 7 weeks?
6 weeks. Yep, look, I've shaved. I no longer look like the wild man of the West. The van actually isn't with us either, don't worry. We haven't sold it in a fit of madness. It's actually down getting a little bit of TLC, both in terms of the bumps.
Yeah, I don't remember who that was.
Knocked out of it, and also a couple of little upgrades. But we will do a video early in 2019 just giving you a little bit of a van tour. So what we thought we'd do in this video is just give you a little bit of a sort of overview of what we've found over the last 9 months travelling in the van on and off, and also give you a little bit of an insight into maybe what's coming up in 2019.
Right, so good wise.
Travelling with me, obviously.
I think one of the massively good benefits that we've got is the central heating. That, as it was getting colder towards the end, was invaluable. There's nothing worse than feeling cold, being outside, coming in and still feeling cold.
Having the actual fixed high top. Now I know people say there's limitations with that because of course some areas that you can't get into with car parks and barriers. We never really find that. Of course we don't spend a lot of time in cities and things, but the heating combined with the fixed high top just meant that honestly, I think in one of our very first videos back in sort of February, even just having the thermostat on at kind of 11 o'clock in terms of temperature, it just lasted. Now with the gas, we've got underslung LPG gas, which in the long run is cheaper than actually buying bottle refills. Obviously, if we were during the summertime, I think we filled up once, which was like about £6, and it lasted us the whole summer. From the heating perspective, I would say that if you had it on constantly, you would probably spend about £5 a week, which.
Cheaper than being in the flat.
What we pay. In fact, we've joked a couple of times that actually when it gets really cold, we'll just go down and sit in the van. But yeah, the LPG heating combined with the fixed high top, bonus.
Yeah. Another really good thing was having the grill and also the Ridge Monkey. Cannot stress enough how good the Ridge Monkey is. Buy one, don't hesitate. You can use it for so many things.
Yeah, I honestly thought that it was really for just doing toasties or things like that. I mean, we literally just shoved everything into it and went, it'll be fine in the Ridge Monkey. And generally it was. I've even seen some people out there on YouTube land who actually bake in it as well. I'm not sure how successful that would be.
I can't even bake in the kitchen.
I was going to say, we can't even bake in the kitchen. So, but yeah, the Ridge Monkey, we'll put a link below, not an affiliate or anything, just a link to where you can pick up the Ridge Monkey. If you're in a van, worthwhile picking one up.
Definitely. On the negatives, I found we've got a rib bed, and I found it just a little bit too firm. So we've actually just invested in a memory foam mattress, actually one specifically cut for the VW rib bed. So we've yet to try that out, but we are a little bit worried where we're going to store it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's going to be quite comfortable, but it also looks like when it's folded up, it's basically like we're trying to store a dead body. So that's going to be interesting. But as I say, we don't have the van at the moment. We're hoping to get it back either later on today or tomorrow, and we'll check it out. But I think we might have to store it just on the back seat, but we'll see how that goes. But hopefully that brings an extra. And I think the rib beds are probably no issue whatsoever if you're only in the van maybe for long weekends or for a couple of weeks at a time. But when you're in there constantly, now I don't really have an issue with uncomfortable beds and whatever. But even I was starting to find it just a little bit. So. Hopefully the memory foam mattress will sort us out. Not cheap though.
No,
for what it is, a bit of mattress. So.
Another negative was the amount of condensation on the windows, and partly our fault because we were a little bit lazy in the mornings to begin with. Our curtains got quite mouldy. Now I think I've kind of salvaged them, but we're thinking about getting the thermal internal blinds to help with this. So any recommendations, much appreciated for that. The only worry we've got is, again, where we're going to store them.
And again, I think if you're only away for a long weekend, storage maybe isn't at such a premium. But when you're thinking of going for longer term trips where literally the van was packed to the absolute hilt, I'm not quite sure where we would store those thermal blinds. I know obviously it brings an additional benefit that obviously it can keep the heat in the cold out during the winter, and obviously the heat out during the summer as well. But we haven't, because again, very expensive, and slightly not slightly concerning, but obviously we have a high top, and for that, while we have barn doors, they're obviously a different dimension of the windows, and everywhere we've looked don't have those in their things. So we have to be custom made, which I'm sure means more spondos. But yeah, the condensation side of things, I know it's just a common issue. I know, you can leave the windows open and you can do various bits and pieces, and of course it does come down to us being a little bit more proactive in terms of cleaning up the condensation. Friends of ours have got this fantastic little vacuum, which works really, really well. But again, then you end up having to store something like this size. But yeah.
I suppose my final negative, and this is probably just us for some reasons, as we tend to have things happen that other people don't.
Circle of chaos.
Our toilet leaked a few times, and we just cannot find out where, because it was done up so tightly we could barely open it.
And to be honest, we even brought it up here, filled it full of water, shook it around and sort of mimicked travelling in the van.
It did leak once.
Yeah, but then it didn't leak again. So
yeah.
Actually what we're going to do is we're going to, obviously where we store the porta potty, it's only a certain space that you can store, so you can't really go for anything bigger. But we've seen a couple of...
Yeah, we're going to try and get a different one and try that, but it did put us off ever using it, and so that was a bit of an inconvenience towards the end of the trip. I think I'll end on a positive though. Another positive with the van was the amount of storage space if you go for a high top. Fantastic. I mean, Nigel said it was burst into the steams, but we had pretty much everything you could need.
Including, how many tops did you take? Don't answer that.
How many shoes did you have? Anyway, that's another positive.
And I think just rounding up the sort of positives, for me, just having the van, being out there and looking back on it now and thinking about it, looking back at some of the videos and looking back at some of the photographs, the fact that this year alone, we've been on the Isle of Mull 3 times, an island that we love, and that was all made possible by having the van. Being able to change your plans at short notice. How many times did we change our plans, and big up to Calmac. But even in the summer when we were kind of, having to make different plans for different, just being able to, say, let's go here and let's go there. So for me...
And particularly when the weather changes, it was helpful to be able to just completely change plans.
Yeah. Just another little one as well. Because of the weather, I think one of the things we're looking at more so now is our data plans on our phones, because obviously having Netflix and things are great, but what we were doing was we were downloading all of the Netflix stuff offline to watch offline, and that way we could then have something when it was rainy. We are thinking of getting a Now TV subscription, but of course the problem with that is you can't download that offline. So we're just looking at sort of mobile plans. But for me, as I say, the big positive was just getting out there. It was just fantastic.
I suppose that leads on slightly to another slight negative, but not
You're
really.
full of the negatives.
I know, that's me. Glass half full. No, half empty. I can't remember which one it is, but you know what I mean. Half empty, isn't it? Yeah. The TV, we have got a little TV, but most of the places we went, not a hope of picking up anything.
Yeah.
So if you are getting a little TV, and we have quite a good aerial that I bought specially, don't expect it to work in really rural locations, particularly if you're surrounded by mountains.
I think if we were able to get an external aerial mounted properly and a positional one that you could sort of position, then maybe. But you saw some of our videos. It just yeah.
So don't, like me, go buy one thinking you're going to have endless amounts of TV. And to be honest, I didn't miss it, but it's quite nice sometimes, particularly if it's raining. If you're somewhere and you can get your 101 channels.
Oban,
Oban's fantastic.
The Esplanade, where you get the ferry, where we stayed overnight, I think something like 17,000 channels or something. Okay, it may have been 100, but most of them were Jeremy Kyle. So why would you want that anyway? But anyway, so that's really sort of some of the positives and negatives that we sort of had from just our first 8 months traveling on and off in the VW.
And another quick positive: fuel consumption very good in the VW. Not so much on your single track roads where you're going quite slow, but we got hundreds of miles out of our tank.
Yeah, I would say on average probably about 70 quid to fill, and we were getting maybe around about 500 miles to the tank.
Yeah, maximum probably.
Yeah,
between 400 and 500.
Yeah,
so pretty good going.
Really good.
Going back to, we had quite a long video chat about mental health
I'll link it up here.
and just your different perceptions of being on the road and what it might do for you, etc. Just an update. I said I'd do it after 4 weeks. Apologies, it's been quite a bit longer than that. Very difficult time on the road for me, but a positive was by the end, I think we had seen some improvement. I've probably gone downhill a bit since I got back, which is quite interesting because that does show that whilst it took a long time for me to start picking up, it did start to have an effect. So that's quite encouraging. That whilst being on the road is great and obviously helps me, and also I think I've mentioned before I'm on some medication, I've decided to try the counselling route. So counselling for me is a slightly different route, having done CBT, seen psychologists, touched on mindfulness but been a bit lazy with that. So I'm going to try this. I've signed up for 6 weeks with a counsellor starting in January, and I'm going to try and do lots of exercise, lots of long walks, just get outside as much as I can really. So combine medication, counselling and exercise. So I'm going to try that for 6 weeks or so, and then I'll maybe do another update then and see how things are going. And remember I said about a song a while back that I really like the words of? I looked it up and it's Lullaby by Professor Green. So thanks.
So I guess that leads us on to what our next stage is. And as we said in a lot of our videos in 2018, a big part of what we were trying to achieve was transition to full-time on the road. Now, that plan has not changed, I don't think, in the grand scheme of things. But what we have decided to do, kind of hold fire here in Portrush for the foreseeable future. Now, as I said, there's a couple of main reasons for that. Firstly and foremost, what Nicola was just saying about her counselling. While we both agree that life on the road and the great outdoors was having a positive effect, we can't discount the fact that some professional counselling could underpin an even more successful result with being in the van.
Just very quickly, sorry, I had finished talking about this, but just to say, whilst being in the van really did help and made me feel a lot better, I think it's important that you address the issues that cause these things. And that's my reason for going to counselling, to try and actually get to the root, so that this gives me even more benefit once we start travelling again.
Obviously, now Guinness is still alive.
Sleeping as usual.
And that has been a challenge. Now, she was no trouble whatsoever. I think she was maybe a little bit poorly the first few weeks that we were on the road, maybe a bit poorly the last couple of days, but generally she was fine. But she is coming 19. It is a challenge travelling in a van with the cat. So that's another reason why we're not anxious, or we're not kind of rushing to sort of sell up and run off and do this full time. And so what we're hoping to do for the next, we're not even really going to put a sort of timeline on it. I think we'll know when the time is right. As I say, travel is still a huge part of our lives, and we certainly know that travel is what we want to do. But we feel that right at this moment in time, because of the circumstances that I've spoken about, maybe it's not the time to go full time. So with that said, I think what we'll do probably over the first 3, maybe 4 months of 2019 is I'm going to be spending quite a lot of time in the van by myself, doing sort of my photography and going out and exploring and following up from that perspective. And then probably once a month, we'll all get away, the 3 of us, for maybe 10 days. Another big challenge that we had, and this sounds quite ungrateful. There's the word. Was working. And yes, we're so grateful that we can work on the road, but with Nicola working all day Friday, me working all day Saturday and part of Sunday, it really felt as though we were having to sort of strong arm our travel plans into work. And I know that was a necessity, but I think what we'd rather do if we were doing this full time would do what we said 8 years ago or 7 years ago, whenever the IVF first failed, was to go and full-time travel, and all we were doing was travelling. There was nothing else. Quit the work completely and just go and travel. Yeah. So we're not really in a position to be doing that as well. So any trips that we do over these next sort of 3 to 6 months, I think will either be a sort of a Monday to Thursday or Sunday afternoon to Thursday, or maybe the odd one, if we know we're going to be in good connectivity, we might end up stretching over a couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll still be able to bring you guys along for the ride. Obviously, we live here in Portrush, which is on the Northampton coast in Northern Ireland. We're very close to the Wild Atlantic Way, the west coast of Ireland, and I think that's where we're going to be exploring a lot of over the first, probably 4 to 6 months of 2019. Now, all of this is subject to a certain longevity of our cat Guinness.
I think she's been a big factor though, because as much as she's no trouble, we do worry about putting her through the travelling. Now she's getting older, she's on lots of medication. And certainly myself, I'd still like to have the option of the flat here. If she starts to go downhill and maybe only has a little while left, I'd like to bring her home so she's comfortable, so that weighs on our minds as well, I think.
But if she were to pass away in the next, 10 minutes, all bets are off, and then we're out of here. I think we kind of have a shit hits the fan, fund where I'll bleep it out. So that's really what we do. We still really want to travel. We both really see the benefits of traveling, but we're, as much as we would love to just grab the van once it's back from the workshop and pack it up and head off, we're also very conscious, first and foremost, getting to the bottom of issues with Nicola and really sort of kicking on from that. So when we do come to go full time, we're kind of in a much better place. And obviously from Guinness's perspective.
But I think, some people would just say, well, just do it and don't worry about the problems. But I think we're not that sort of people. We have got underlying sensitivity, I think, for things. And
I think the main one is Nicola.
I want to get well before I set off on this journey, because I want this journey to be the best thing I've ever done. And I think when you've got issues and you take them along with you, although it's helped, you can't get the full enjoyment that you really want. So
well, I think that's been, and maybe just end on this here because we don't want this to sort of drag on. I think that for me has been one of the big positives from this, because take us right back to that very first night in the car park in Newcastle, County Down, when Nicola was having a bit of a breakdown regarding living in the van. I can't do it. I won't be able to do it. My concern was that this wasn't going to work from a practicality point of view. Now I'm so encouraged that we could do this. We could head off for 6 months, for a year, out through Europe. It's my dream to drive up to Lofoten, to the Lofoten Islands in northern Norway. Would also love to explore southern Europe. Sounds like with the whole Brexit hobbycock, we're going to have to do that sooner rather than later. But and obviously we also want to couple the van travelling with long-term travel out into places like Patagonia, up into Canada, into India, maybe into sort of places like that across Asia. So travel, as I say, we still believe is a huge, huge part of our future, but we're just playing it a little bit more sensible for now. And so that's really the plan.
Yeah.
So rather than now posting sort of weekly videos that don't really contain a lot, we'll probably be
we'll do a van one early in the new year.
Yeah,
we'll show you around the van.
We'll do a van tour early in the year,
yeah.
And then obviously as we take the van out on some more trips, we'll obviously record our misadventures.
Hopefully one of the first ones next year, weather permitting, is I'm going to try and get up Errigal, because I freaked out last time.
It's the second highest mountain in Ireland.
Yeah.
Last time we took her up, she freaked out. But
had to come down on my bum. So this time I'm going to go for it.
Cool. So that's all from us. It's all just us to wish you all guys a very Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year.
And thanks, obviously, for following along. I say our misadventures. This is all pretty new to us in terms of travelling in the van. We'll hopefully see you rocking our Harold and Hilda outfits in the new year.
And if you've got any recommendations about good UK places to visit that you think we'd enjoy, post us a comment and let us know. That'd be great.
Cool. So from the three of us, well, the two of us and a sleeping...
If you open a tin of food, she'll be here, I'm sure of it.
We're off to feed some horses.
Yes. Nigel's favourite food. Don't ever give him a carrot, he'll be sick over you.
No. All right, guys.
All right, take care.
Catch up later. Bye-bye.
Bye.